he's predicting the neoliberal economic order to not really change that much.
Absolutely.
But just in fairness to him, really it's only changed a lot in the last year. Really, in the last year and a half, we've seen a change in the kind of the neoliberal order with this re-rise of nationalism again, because neoliberalism takes power away from nationalism to some degree, not entirely. But I think that was also ultimately going to, ultimately people were going to go back into nationalism, I think. It was really interesting, having taught on neoliberalism versus nationalism for the last 11 years and constantly realizing that what I taught like the next year was then wrong because then I had to reteach it a little bit different each time. Well, because the situation was changing so much. I was going to say,
it wasn't wrong in the moment.
It wasn't wrong in the moment, but it's like you're reading these texts about how like, okay, neoliberalism has done some really interesting things for foreign aid. Okay, but actually it looks like those things didn't really do anything interesting for foreign aid. It just reasserted corporate power. It actually was a form of neocolonialism.
He swapped out Nestle with Coca-Cola.
That's right. Africa, So it's really interesting reading a book like this, near future sci-fi. And I think the key thing here that I took away from the book is it's community power. That's really what changes everything in the book.
Oh, my contempt for almost everybody that blurbed this book on the cover. I do think it is a good book. I think it is full of good ideas. I think some of them have already been proven to be like maybe not perfect ideas, but I think he's thinking the right way. And what I was trying to say earlier about the banking thing was that we could achieve a lot of the same ends that he describes through the blockchain with just regulation. Mm-hmm. Like and I think if people had their feet held to the fire by a super depression, you could probably get them to regulate almost as effectively as the magic blockchain in this scenario, like makes everything visible to the public. Nobody can hide money anymore. Right. Maybe we don't need money in 50 years kind of situation.
Well, that was like, the aftermath of the American Depression, which was, we talk about the American Depression in the 1930s, late 20s, early 30s, and in part brought on by the First World War and the way that resources were distributed.
Absolutely. And lots of countries did nationalize their banks, and we, instead of doing that, chose to heavily regulate our banks.
Right.
And because of that, we had a...
Glass-Steagall, was it?
Glass-Steagall, exactly. We had a parity level that is described in one of my favorite bits in this book. One of the favorite little essays is by this lady who was in the Navy for 8 years. And she's like, whenever admirals would come around, I was like, always surprised how chill they were. And then I found out that they make about 8 times as much as I do. Yeah. And when I found out that people who worked in California had execs at their companies making 1,500 times as much as they did, I was so surprised. And I was like, how are they incentivized to do a good job?
Right. Yeah. So, I'm actually in the
corporate execs from the late 40s to the late 60s made about 8 times as much. Like the chairman of GE made 10 times as much as an entry level or not an average worker in his company. Right. Which is amazing.
And the average worker is the one, like the average worker should be making a living wage. Absolutely. And that's essentially what the Navy has. Because she talks about how the Navy doesn't pay you very much. It's only like $25 a year, but you also get your room and board, and you can bank all that money while you're in the Navy.
And you can bank it with good interest rates because
Navy credit union.
Exactly.
Stuff, right?
Yeah.
So in other words, she was one of the essays was talking about avocation for a maximum wage, which I am all on board. Yeah. I think we have to include all assets though, with the maximum wage, because a lot of people will just tie up into stocks and everything. And
property.
Also, we just need to burn the fucking stock market to the ground.
I think the stock market could go away tomorrow, and that would be fine.
That would be fine with everyone, I think. In reality, it would create some market chaos and supply chain disruption temporarily, but ultimately...
What doesn't?
What doesn't, yeah. What fucking doesn't?
Current banking practices do the same thing, might as well get rid of it.
Right. Well, the tariffs are fucking up the whole situation, so why not just get rid of it all at once?